The 1950s Lone Ranger TV show starring Clayton Moore and Jay Silverheels will always be my Lone Ranger and Tonto. But today, we're here to go over the Gabriel 1980s release of the Legend of the Lone Ranger action figure toy line. Join me.
A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver. The Lone Ranger. Hi-Yo Silver! Away!
Welcome back to Ravenwood Collectibles. I am Steven, and yes, today we're going to go over the toy line that was released for the May 22nd, 1981 release of Universal Studios' The Legend of the Lone Ranger movie. In his one and only motion picture appearance, Clinton Spilsbury would don the hat, the mask, and the silver bullets and become the Lone Ranger. The important roles of both Tonto and Butch Cavendish would be played by Michael Horse and, yes, our Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd. The Legend of the Lone Ranger movie would both be critically and commercially a failure, which would lead us to a small Wave 1 line of action figures released. Join me as we discover the story of how John Reed, the Texas Ranger, became the Lone Ranger. And then let's take an in-depth look at the packaging, the back of the packaging, and the action figures in this toy line. The story begins with 6 Texas Rangers, led by Captain Dan Reed. They would pursue a band of outlaws, led by Bartholomew Butch Cavendish. The horrific ambush in Bryan's Gap would leave only one Ranger, barely alive. It would be Tonto, who later would discover Captain Reed's younger brother John Reed, barely alive, and begin to nurse him back to health. Tonto would give this injured man the name of Kimosabe, which means trusty scout. John would later tell Tonto that he intended to hunt down Cavendish and his gang and bring them to justice. To conceal his identity and honor his fallen brother, Reed would fashion a mask using cloth from his late brother's vest to conceal his identity. To aid in the deception, Tonto would dig a 6th grave and place a cross bearing John Reed's name to fool Cavendish and his gang. And the legend of the Lone Ranger was born. The Lone Ranger. I've always appreciated Gabriel's attention to detail, their accessories, and their play sets in most of their toy lines. The card art, as you see here, does not vary from character to character, but it is very classy and very well done. The back of the card does show us all 5 figures released in the line and the 3 horses. We get a small synopsis of the story of the Lone Ranger on the bottom, and what looks to be a proof of purchase up in the right-hand corner as a silver bullet. In later releases of this action figure line, there would be a premium for the Western Town playset. This could be obtained by sending in 4 character names cut from the figures or the horses as a proof of purchase. Now let me tell you, this cardboard playset on the secondary market goes for big dollars these days, ranging up to about $300 to $400. Accessories: the Lone Ranger would come with his pair of silver-plated revolvers. This is my childhood Lone Ranger, so he has seen better days. This is a really well-designed figure, lots of great detail. Love the holsters, which will actually hold his pistols. Love the red sash around his neck. Every figure in this line would have 7 points of articulation, would have bendable knees. This would allow any figure to ride any of the horses. Gun accessories fit nicely in the hands, fit nice and straight. Overall, this Lone Ranger figure probably fits in the top 20 action figures of all time for me. It is absolutely a stunning and awesome action figure. Tonto. As a kid in the toy store, if you're picking up the Lone Ranger figure, you're for sure going to pick up Tonto. Accessories: Tonto was packed with a revolver, and maybe the smallest accessory I've ever seen was his knife. Now, if you did not lose that as a kid right out of the gate, I would be shocked. I absolutely love the face sculpt of this figure. The figure color is very minimal, but the detail throughout the entire figure from front to back is absolutely amazing when you get up close to it. Comes with a holster for his gun and a sheath to put his knife in. Once again, 7 points of articulation. Both the knife and the gun fit nicely in his hand. Overall, really classy figure, Gabriel. Butch Cavendish. Lone Ranger's biggest nemesis and the main villain from the movie into the toy line. Accessory wise, Butch would just come with one revolver. This is a good face sculpt. Not too sure it looks like Christopher Lloyd from the movie, but it looks good. I do like the button-down shirt and collar, the red sash around his waist, and Butch also comes with a holster for his gun. 7 points of articulation, that way Butch can ride Smoke, his horse. As a true villain, the pistol fits nicely in Butch's hands. Overall, it's a decent figure. It's a good villain figure. It would be my least favorite figure in the line. Buffalo Bill Cody. Occupations: Army Scout, Pony Express rider, wagon train driver, town developer, railroad contractor, bison hunter, fur trapper, gold prospector, and best known for his Wild West show. Accessory-wise, Buffalo Bill would be packed with a highly detailed rifle. 7 points of articulation, maybe one of the most detailed figures in the entire line. The face sculpt on this is outstanding. General George Custer, United States Army officer and cavalry commander in the American Civil War. Another one of those childhood action figures. Gabriel would go to high lengths and put great detail into this action figure. I love the gold stars on his collar, the gold buttons down his vest. Custer would come with a holster to hold his pistol. And once again, another great face sculpt from Gabriel. 7 points of articulation. You know, Gabriel did a really nice job with his entire toy line, with the accessories actually fitting in their hands and fitting in straight, like they could almost aim them. Overall, very solid figure. Glad I have it in the collection. Silver. Silver is the Lone Ranger's great white stallion. The horse was so named by Tonto, who once remarked that the horse's coat looked like silver. 5 points of articulation. The tail does move up and down. Each leg is independent. Lots of detail have been put into this horse. The saddle, the stirrups, the reins. With the 7 points of articulation, the action figures do sit on these horses with great detail. Feet fit in stirrups, hands fit on reins. Just an awesome piece of toy history for any Lone Ranger collector. Scout. Tonto's Indian Pinto pony. Scout, also 7 points of articulation, but look at the detail on the saddle. Just outstanding. Tonto saddles up nicely on Scout, and man, these two together, it's a work of art. Smoke. The wild black stallion of outlaw Butch Cavendish. Once again, 7 points of articulation. And that color of the saddle, that brown saddle, man, that just jumps right off that horse. Old Butch Cavendish saddled up on Smoke here, guns a-blazing. Nothing like wrapping up a toy review with a good-looking villain on his horse. In a later release, Gabriel would give us 2 packs of both Lone Ranger and Silver, Butch Cavendish and Smoke, and Tonto and Scout. Hey, thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope you enjoyed going over the Gabriel Lone Ranger line. It's one of my favorite toy lines that I collect. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. And I'm going to leave you today with the Lone Ranger's strict moral code and the words he lives by. Take care. See you next time. I believe to have a friend, a man must be one, that all men are created equal, and that everyone has within himself the power to make this world better. That God put the firewood there, but that every man must gather the light himself, in being prepared physically, mentally, and morally to fight when necessary for what is right. That man should make the most of the equipment he has. That this government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall live always. That men should live by the rule of what is best for the greatest number. That sooner or later, somewhere, somehow, we settle the world and make payment for what we have taken. That all things change, but truth, and the truth alone, lives on forever. In my Creator, my country, my fellow man.
Are you silver?